Hey, if you're somebody who's woken up in the middle of the night, grabbed that phone, looked at that bank account, and your stomach just like dropped, this is for you. If you've been the person that says, I'll make a budget, and then that next paycheck comes in, the month goes by, a whole year goes by, and that budget feels further and further away than you ever thought, this is for you. And even if you're somebody who's looked around the room around and saw the people around you and thought, wow, they all have money figured out, and I'm still guessing. I need you to hear this. It's that nobody's taught you how to care for the money that you earn. And it's not a character flaw, it's a gap. And that's what this community is about. It's about shrinking that gap. So here's what financial stress actually feels like. I'm not talking about the surface level feeling. I'm talking about that anxiety that follows you around every single day. I'm talking about the way you avoid your checking account because that number scares you. I'm talking about you saying yes to things that you can't afford. And the way that you work hard and I mean genuinely are working hard and still feel like you're not getting anywhere. And you know what the toughest part about that is? It's not the debt. It's not even the number in your bank account. It's that feeling that I should have this figured out by now, and I don't. It's the exhaustion of pretending like, yeah, life's great, I'm good, making money, everything's paid for, we're chilling. But the reality is that you're sinking, and you're always sinking. I know that feeling. I know it so intimately because I've lived it. My name is Phoebe Yorty. I grew up in a small village in northern Ontario. At 10 years old, I got my first job working at a fishing resort cleaning cabins. At 16, I bought my first car, full cash, all on my own. At 18, I moved out and I was like, I got money figured out. And it just wasn't true. I was constantly overspending. I was going into my savings, pulling for everyday purchases. I just had no structure. I didn't know what I was doing. And it got even more intense before it got easier. When I began my relationship with my husband, we both had the same money problems. Had no goals, had no structure, had no discipline. And so we would get this money and it would just go all up. You know, we lived in campers. We that had low living costs. We picked beer cans out of the dump to afford food. We did little odd and end jobs just to cover our life. When my husband opened up his business, like we were living out of a tent and he was operating that business out of the tent for 3 months. And yet, with that money coming in, we were still spending $2,000. We lived at a tent. And so when he finally got a full time job, it was like, we must learn how to manage money. This is a non negotiable. This has to happen. We are not going back. And so there came a moment, 72 hours, where I broke down everything. I took the 4 months of his earnings and I found the different earning scenarios. So he earned $3,000 a month, he earned $4,000 a month, he earned $5,000 a month. It was all over the place. I found out all of our living expenses. So he was living in the States and I was living in Canada and he was traveling back and forth. So him, myself, and our daughter could be a family together that is supported financially. And so I found out all the living expenses and I broke down three separate budgets. One for $3,000, what that looked like. One for $4,000, what that looked like. One for $5,000, what that looked like. And I broke it all down into percentages. and we had some debt left, so that was a percent. And we had to save up for winter tires, and that was a percent. And then we had to imagine what it would be like when we were paying for 2 apartments, because he was still living in the office at his job. He couldn't get an apartment yet. So we had to get ready for that next step. So I looked at my husband after 72 hours of just crunching numbers, stress testing. Next, what would it look like if I did this system for $3,000 a month for 8 weeks ahead? What if I did it for $4,000? What it would look like 8 weeks ahead? What would our accounts look like? What would it be like? I remember I looked at my husband. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but this is the best thing that I can come up with. 72 hours later. And so we put it to the test. And I tweaked it every week. I changed it every week. Just like these small, minute changes. And in 2 months, we had put aside $1,200 to buy those tires. In 3 months, we had over $3,000 saved. By the 4th month, when our truck broke down and we needed to buy a new one, we bought the next one. When James finally got an apartment to live in, he could just put the down payment on the apartment, the deposit on the apartment, and could start paying rent. And after 6 months of using this percentage method and it gaining the momentum, we had 3 months of expenses pre-saved. And when I calculated it all up after 8 months, we had over $10,000 in our bank accounts. The percentage method isn't this rigid budget that if you step out of the line, it completely breaks. It's designed to give you this flex, this breathing room, this sense of security with your money. And so that's exactly what I'm going to teach you in starting July 1st inside the 30-day Money Blueprint Bootcamp. So over 30 days, you're going to learn how to build your complete financial blueprint. And I mean your real income, your real expenses, your real financial goals, your debt map, and a working percentage-based budget built around your actual life. This is not a course to kind of dabble in or just like forget it. This is a challenge for you to show up every single day, and I'll show up with you. Now here's what's waiting on the other side of the 30-day. Every single person who completes this 30-day challenge will get a free one-on-one session with me where I'll build your percentage budget along with you. Not off of theoretical, but not after theoretical, but off of your actual numbers. And then together we can build it. And it's not a template, it's not generic, it's your specific budget for your specific life, for your specific earnings. So I would like to build that with you. And for the first 10 people who complete the challenge, they get 3 additional calls with me once a week for 3 weeks after that to see if you've got to change it a little bit, if you need a little bit more help, and see how it's going for you. I want to see you succeed, because if you don't succeed, I don't succeed. And I want you to succeed. And like, this is free. This challenge is free, the session is free, the calls are free. The only thing that it's going to cost you is the 30 days of showing up for you. Now, I built this percentage method because I was so desperate for a way out, and I'm so desperate for something that actually worked with my life. And I just know that there are other people out there that have felt the same thing. And I know the system works. So here's what I want you to do right now. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Go to the community feed. Introduce yourself. Tell me your name. Tell me where you're at. Tell me what's going on. The things that you want to change most about your financial life. That first post is your first actual accountability. Saying, I want to do this. I want this change. And that's empowering. So I'll see you in the feed. And I'll see you on July 1st. Let's build your blueprint.